I don't think I've been this excited to sit down and record a YouTube video in, man, I couldn't even tell you how long. I wanted to just say what I gotta say. I wanted to sit down. It's only a couple of hours after we just saw the revealing of the PlayStation 5 and the games that are coming for it, and we're just going to go into it. I'm going to be rambling. I don't have any notes for this. I've just got a list of the games that they announced. I just wanted to sit down with you guys and get hyped for the next generation consoles, get hyped for the PlayStation 5, give you my thoughts on the games that they've shown, give you my thoughts on the console in general, but mostly we're going to be focusing on the games because, holy moly, am I freaking hyped for this thing. I don't think I've been this excited for a new console since probably the launch of the Xbox 360. I am by far more excited for the PlayStation 5 than I was for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One combined. This has reinvigorated my hope for the future for the next generation consoles, mostly because a lot of these games spoke to me. We're going to get into a lot of different things here. I hope I'm not going to forget anything. I just wanted to sit down and get my raw excitement out there while we're just a couple hours fresh off of this event. So let's start with the console itself. Now I'm not going to have any fancy editing here, so just a heads up, we're just going to be talking what's on my mind here. In terms of the console design, I'm not the biggest fan of this thing. The look is not really, I'm more of I don't like flashy consoles. I like them to be nice, simple, just be a square box, just be a plain old boring console. I don't need anything flashy. This is certainly different for Sony in the PlayStation brand. It reminds me of like an Alienware computer from like the late 2000s or something. But that's okay. We're not here to criticize the console. At the end of the day, it's the games that we got to get excited for. The one thing to note though is that it is going to have a version with a CD drive and a digital version. Now, once we know more details on release date, price for both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series 1, or Series X rather, sorry, so many Series 1X, Series Xbox One X, Series Y, you know how it is with that. I plan on making another video on what my plans are for both of the consoles once we know a little bit more details. But I will say, I think it's a clever way to lead into the next generation, prepare people that, hey, we're leading towards a more digital future. Here's a cheaper version for you that's digital only. I think that's fine. I actually prefer the look of the digital only version. The one with the CD drive is looking kind of lopsided. I really am not the biggest fan of the design on that thing. But like I mentioned, we're not gonna hinge upon the look of the console. Let's get into the games themselves. So let's do a general overview of the event first of all, and then we'll get into the nitpicking of the individual games. As a whole, I felt like the pacing of this was expertly crafted. Every game we never spent much more than 3 minutes on. There's only a handful of games that they showed us 3 minutes of footage for. Most of the games were a minute to 2 minutes, perfect length, bite-sized, so if you weren't too into the game, you didn't have to spend too long looking at it. The breadth and variety and diversity in the games that we saw in this event today blew my mind. Let this sink in for a second. The fact that we saw, over the course of an hour, for a new console reveal to show us what the future of gaming is going to look like on a next-generation console, we only saw one sports game, which didn't even have gameplay, for like a minute, and we saw one first-person shooter. Let that sink in for you. Everything else were unique ideas, games that take us to new dimensions, new worlds, crazy varied environments, concepts that we have never seen before. The breadth and scope of these games are very refreshing. I was blown away that not only did they choose to showcase a lot of indie titles, which I thought was awesome, even if some of the trailers maybe could have used a little bit of work to get you hyped up for them, just a handful of them, but I was just blown away by the amount and types of games that we saw, and how obscure some of these games are for a console unveiling event. When it comes to actually seeing what games are going to be coming for the launch, we still don't know. So it's hard to say, oh my goodness, when I get my hands on the PlayStation 5 day one, I can't wait to play these games, because sadly we still do not know. These are all launch window. Some games are 2021, some games are actually, there was one game I saw with 2022. Most of these games are targeting a launch, but we don't know the specific date because we still don't know the specific date of the PlayStation 5. Once we get into the specific games, though, I'm going to tell you exactly what ones I hope would be a day one release. So, event as a whole, knocked it out of the park. I think it actually, and I don't mean this in a way like, oh, I'm a Sony fanboy attacking Microsoft. Listen, I'm for all consoles. At the end of the day, it's the games. It comes down to the games for me. But to be honest, that like Zoom webcam meeting that Microsoft did, it's no competition. It's almost embarrassing for Microsoft. But this makes me excited for the future because Microsoft has a chance to come back swinging and show us what they got. Show us what they've got coming for first-party titles. Show us the indie games that they're going to have coming out for that console. Show us why we need an Xbox Series X. So, I think Sony really delivered a message that, hey, they're in this to win this next generation. But what do you say we get into the games? I'm going to be going in order of what they showed from start to finish. That's how I'm going to just go through each one. So from the first game that they showed to the last game, that's the ordering that we're going to go through here. I have a website pulled up here on the side that helps me remember the titles of these games, because some of these titles are a little hard to remember. I'm not going to be showing any trailers, copyright stuff on YouTube these days, and also because that would take way too long for me to edit. I kind of want to get my excitement out there right now and share it with you guys, but feel free to, I'm actually going to... I'll leave a link to the site that I'm using if you want to follow along with me. So as I'm talking about a game, they have the name of the game in the trailer. I'll leave a link to that website below here. I just randomly pulled it up off of Google. Alright, so the first thing they showed that kind of scared me a little bit was Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm like, wait a minute. How do you lead a console unveiling with a previous gen game? I thought that was very strange. From a marketing standpoint, it made sense. Grand Theft Auto 5 is a cash cow that is... If they can get any kind of exclusive content for that for the PlayStation 5 and like reassure people that yes, Grand Theft Auto is still best played on a PlayStation, makes sense from a marketing standpoint. But let's move on to the meat of things here. First game they showed, and I think it's a great way to start off the event, is the new Spider-Man game. And now I do want to let you know I have not played Spider-Man on PlayStation 4 yet. I've been waiting because typically these days I'm not really buying too many single-player games at full price $60. I kind of wait until it either comes on a subscription service or I can get it really cheap used on eBay or something. So I still haven't played Spider-Man. So I'm a little bit less excited about this than most people probably would be. But it's great to see that Spider-Man is making a comeback much sooner than most people were probably anticipating. Next they showed Gran Turismo 7. This was sort of a given. Gran Turismo games have always sort of been the benchmark when it comes to a new PlayStation console coming out, and in terms of looking at the visuals and how far we've come. Gran Turismo games have always been sort of good for just visually dazzling effects and checking out your new console and showing it to people and saying, oh, look at what my new fancy console can do. Mostly I just remember Gran Turismo 3 kind of being that benchmark for me with my PlayStation 2 A-spec. Will I get Gran Turismo 7? Probably, especially if it's a launch game. I think this would make a fantastic launch game for the PS5. It's seemingly going to be one of the only racing games in the launch window. I was very disappointed that Ridge Racer 8, which I was really pulling for, was not announced. But hey, Gran Turismo, I'm happy for the fans. It seems to be everything that they've been looking for with the new career mode as well. Next is something I was very excited for. This trailer kind of blew me away. I would say this is definitely in my top 5 of most anticipated games from this event. And that's Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. I was secretly hoping it would have been something along the lines of Jak and Daxter, because they've been more dormant than Ratchet & Clank lately. However, after I watched the trailer and the gameplay for this, I was sold. This looks next gen. The particle effects, blowing up stuff, seeing the debris fall all over, pieces of leaves falling from the trees from a blast from nearby, and just the wreckage that is caused from the weapons in this game. And then you see the gimmick of time warping through dimensional portals. Now you kind of see the idea of warping through like linear sections of the story of the game, but then when you see it actually during the gameplay and sort of warping around the environment during combat, and then you start thinking to yourself, oh man, how are they going to play into this with the weapons, right? Imagine you have this portal gun, this gun that shoots a portal and opens up a dimension to another world, and suddenly you can summon like a tidal wave, a tsunami or something right through a portal from another planet that has all these little piranhas that are like biting at the enemies, or you summon a portal and giant tentacles come down and attack enemies, or just all these crazy ideas that they can probably do with this portal rift system. But not only that, but this game felt next gen. I think that's the most important thing that I was looking for from this event. and other events from Microsoft as well, is to feel the next gen appeal. Why do you need a PlayStation 5? Why do you need a Series X? And it's games like Ratchet and Clank here that convinced me that this is a generational leap that I think is beyond what we were expecting for home consoles, in my opinion. Now keep in mind, what we are watching is 1080p. You know, I'm watching it through a stream and then restreaming it. So like, what you're seeing at your home computer is not going to be representative of playing it on a 4K television with HDR in the comfort of your own home. It's going to look way different. So if you think these games look good on your computer screen, just wait. So Ratchet and Clank, really hope this is a launch game. Really do. This would be a perfect launch, day one launch game for the PlayStation 5. All right, next is Project Athia, and this one was definitely it was like a roller coaster ride. So they showed the Square Enix logo, and immediately I'm like, oh, it's a Tomb Raider game or something. And they're like, oh, we follow her journey or whatever. I'm like, yeah, Lara, okay. And then suddenly we see a much more sci-fi take on it. She's leaping across these pillars, and the environment was much more fantasy-esque. And I'm like, okay, all right, this kind of reminds me of that tech demo that they showed back in, 2013 or whatever, for the PlayStation 4. And it's unveiled to be apparently a new IP. I'm all for new IPs. I think the most pleasing thing about this event is just how many new projects we are getting. Not the same old rehashes of series that we kind of expect to be on the next consoles. Bring me more new IPs, I'm all for it. Alright, next, potential game of the year here, okay? But kidding aside, the next game really was funny because I'm watching this trailer, and I'm talking about Stray. I'm watching this trailer of this sort of cyberpunk, like, futuristic city, and we're seeing all these robots working around, and I'm kind of being reminded of, like, cyberpunk in a way, just a more colorful, playful vibe. And then we see this cat walking through the street, and she's got, like, a little video camera on its back, and I'm watching it, and in that moment when I see the cat walking down the alley, I'm like, man. And I say this out loud, by the way. I stream this, so, you know, I'm saying this in front of an audience. I'm like, man, plot twist. Wouldn't it be cool to play as that cat? 10 seconds later, the game is called Stray. Sure enough, you play as the cat. How freaking cool is that? These unique and original ideas, they're practically leading their show with this little indie game where you play as a cat that's trying to apparently, like, piece back together this sort of dystopian, futuristic city. I read little bullet points about the story of these games. And if you're curious, by the way, if you want to see my reactions live to this event, I recorded it in full. We did a little predictions show beforehand. A couple of them actually ended up coming true. And then we watched it live with everybody together on my Twitch, and of course shared more analysis afterwards. If you're interested in watching that in full, I'll also have a link to that down below if you're interested. Some of these I may have more to say on than others, so I don't want to spend too much time on each game, such as a game like Returnal. This is the one that's sort of like a sci-fi action game with this woman in a spacesuit, and it kind of looks like a Nier game where it's like a third-person action game with bullet hell shooting going on. It looked interesting, looked cool, new IP, you can't argue with it. I thought it looked pretty awesome. This was a good surprise for me. Every time we have one of these kind of events, I'm always pulling for 3D platformers. I always love to see a resurgence of this genre. Truth be told, I'm getting kind of tired of 2D platformers. I want more 3D platformers. And before the event started, we were kind of theorizing on what series we may or may not see make a return, and somebody was like, well, what about Little Big Planet? And I was like, well, Media Molecule's so busy with Dreams now, they're not going to really have time for Little Big Planet, so I can't believe this never occurred to me. What do? You pass it off to apparently Sumo Digital, who is known for racing games. You don't pass off Little Big Planet, you pass off Sackboy, of course. He's practically a PlayStation, the face of PlayStation as a mascot at this point. So you take Sackboy out of Little Big Planet, remove the name, presumably remove the creation tools. I'm not sure, I haven't really read into this too much. It seems like it's going to be a contained single-player adventure where you can play it with friends online or play it by yourself. And you can just straight up play as Sackboy in his own 3D platformer without the need for creation tools, without the need for any of that kind of stuff from Media Molecule side. So I think this looks great. I think it looks really good. Pretty hyped just for any new 3D platformers in general, and it's pretty interesting to see Sumo Digital take this on instead of Media Molecule themselves is sort of like maybe give it to their B team. But I think this is great. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do with Sackboy and the future of Sackboy in general. Okay, next is Destruction All-Stars, and this one is an interesting one. First watching this, it reminded me of like sort of like a Fortnite kind of skin, very colorful, very Rocket League-esque. And I remember a lot of people were also like, "Man, I'd love to see a return of Twisted Metal." I'm like, I don't think it's time for Twisted Metal. The one on PlayStation 3 sold very poorly, so I just don't really see Twisted Metal making a comeback anytime. But to be honest, I never expected a vehicular combat demolition derby type game to be shown for the unveiling of a PlayStation 5. So this was a pleasant surprise. What it appears to be is sort of like a Demolition Derby meets Twisted Metal, arena-based, potentially Battle Royale. I don't really know. I haven't looked into it too much, but at least it's like an arena-style Demolition Derby online multiplayer game where it's not just cars. It seems like when you destroy somebody's car, the player comes out and you control the player. So it's sort of like a two-life system where once you lose your car, you gain control of the player in third person, and you can like hijack other cars and wreak havoc for your team or and the enemies in as a player instead of being in the car. It looks very stylish, very flashy. The reactions to this were kind of mixed, I think, because of the art style and how much it resembles a sort of Fortnite type of game. But I don't mind. I think it's colorful, bright, cheery. It looks really great as a launch title. I hope this makes the day one launch, and admittedly, it's one of the games that I'm most looking forward to from this. Now we come upon what I believe is my favorite game of the entire event. Now, if you know me well, you might have an idea of what this may be, or unless you know the ordering of the games that they showed. Of all the games that they showed for this event, this, I believe, is what I am most excited for. It actually almost made me slightly emotional the first time I saw this, and I think my favorite moment of this entire event is in this trailer, and that is for Kena Bridge of Spirits. This is an indie game, which is apparently being developed as a concept between two brothers that had their vision realized by the support of Sony and a bigger team that sort of came together to make their vision come together for this. And this is a story-driven action-adventure. This is the one that sort of will probably remind you of games like Cameo, where it's this girl, she's in this lush forest jungle-type area, and it seems to have a Pikmin element kind of, where you have these little, they call them rots, R-O-T, that's what they're being called in this game. These little critters that kind of she commands in combat and everything. But what I love most about this is it encapsulates the kind of games that I love. A fantasy worlds, very Pixar-like, very much based on, you know, an animated type of world. But they show sort of the story element of the trailer, and then all of a sudden it cuts to the gameplay, and she's in this backdrop of this lush forest with flowers and waterfalls, and she's platforming. The combat looks really fun, the enemy designs look great, but it just reminds me of the type of games that I love most, and that's 3D action platformer adventure type games. I just got so excited for this because I never expected this, an indie game, a new type of game like this to be unveiled with the PlayStation 5. This is the perfect game for a day one launch. I really hope this comes out with the console itself. These are the kind of games that I get excited for. I'm not so excited for first-person shooters anymore. I'm not so excited for third-person shooters, even though I would have loved to have seen a new SOCOM, which is quite unfortunate. Hopefully that's still coming in the future, like a remaster of some sort. But it's these types of fantasy games that I love the most, and it kind of looks like a blend between Cameo, Pikmin, Okami, a little bit of Breath of the Wild in there, perhaps. It just looks great. It's my favorite game of the event, and I kind of stand by that. It looks like it was made for me. So, all right, next, I won't spend too long on this. I felt like it was one of the more underwhelming games of the presentation. Goodbye Volcano High. It was the animated game with like dragons and such. I don't think the trailer did a good job of conveying what this is going to be like, but I still got to commend Sony for showcasing an indie game such as that with the unveiling of their console. You have to imagine how much it means to the developers to have their game, you know, that normally probably would have only received 10 seconds in like an E3 presentation, get this level of notoriety in a console reveal stream. Gotta hand it to them. Very, very awesome of them to bring the indies to the forefront. Alrighty, now this is one that, honestly, I kind of forgot was even revealed previously. It also has a title that looks like it's ripped straight out of a Star Wars movie, and that's Oddworld Soulstorm. I personally am not really into the Oddworld series that much. I've barely dabbled into it, but they're just really, I've never really gotten into them in the little bit that I played. I'm very happy for Oddworld fans though, because a lot of them are glad that this is returning to the side-scrolling puzzle adventure that it was once known for. It looks great. The trailer was pretty epic, very dark as well. It's just kind of cool to see some old PlayStation originals making a comeback in new and um, creative ways. Okay, next is Ghostwire Tokyo. This one, of course, we saw last E3 revealed with the trailer, and we kind of were unsure where it was going to go with gameplay. And it looks different, that is for sure. This looks like the type of world that we have never really seen in a game before, at least on this scope and scale, where it's sort of this paranormal, first-person, psychosis sort of modern Western meets ancient folklore style settings. And it looks great. A lot of people were actually commenting on the fact that this looks like it's almost made for VR. And granted, Sony did not mention anything about VR with this event today. But if you watch the trailer back again, you'll notice that it does seem to be maybe not made for VR, but definitely supportive of VR with how stationary a lot of the gameplay seems to be in this. And for some people, this is a console seller. I saw a lot of people were commentating when I was watching this for the first and second time that, you know, this is something that they would buy the console for. So hopefully it delivers. Got a lot of nice little horror elements in there as well. Next one, just briefly touch upon this, Jet the Far Shore. Now, when I first saw the trailer for this, you probably don't even recall it yourselves. It was just a very artsy, sort of slow burn trailer for an indie game. But if you go and read that this game is apparently quite epic in story and narrative, I think it's something to look forward to. I don't think the trailer did it any justice. You probably don't even remember it yourselves. Probably one of the weaker trailers for the show, but I think it's got some promise. Next, moving on to Godfall. We found out about this earlier last E3, earlier this year. I can't even keep track anymore. But Godfall, the trailer, the music choice, I don't think it quite fit too well with Godfall. But I will say, this looks like the perfect day one launch game. You know, that sort of awesome, epic, multiplayer, third-person action game with some heavy combat, big hulking weapons, right? Launches for these consoles need games that, while maybe light in content, are just kind of fun to play for, 15, 20 hours, and however long it may last. I think the trailer had too many cuts. It showed just like too many cuts in the gameplay of the combat. I need to know a little bit more about the flow of this game and how it actually plays when it's not being cut and edited for a trailer. I think the character and creature designs look really impressive. I think Godfall will be a great launch title. I'm not sure how interested in it I will be if it comes out, after the initial launch, and there's a lot of other games to choose from. But I'm kind of liking the look of Godfall. One of the earliest looks trailer-wise that we had into next-gen consoles. Okay, next from the creator of Hyper Light Drifter is Solar Ash. This kind of gives me a feeling of a third-person action-adventure journey game. And the little bullet point that I read on this one is that it is open worlds. So usually that's pretty ambitious for an indie title. And the movement is what really captured me about this one. It's the one where the trailer starts and the character sort of skates along this desert-like atmosphere and then comes out to the outside world and it sort of turns upside down. And then you see this sort of Shadow of the Beast type monster, like Panzer Dragoon monster, sort of glide by in the front. Looks great. Looks like a game that I would definitely enjoy. The trailer is just a little bite-sized piece of what to expect, but it's looking good. Next was Hitman 3. I've never played a Hitman game before, actually. And this looks like it might be a good place to start. Will I play this? I don't know. Depends what's out at the time. Depends what I'm playing. But it's kind of, I'm happy for Hitman fans. New game for next gen. Next is Astro's Playroom. Now, I have not played Astrobot on the PlayStation VR. I've been on a hiatus from VR, actually, so I have not played Astrobot. But from the looks of it, now it's very interesting to take a game that was PSVR and then transition it into a new game that makes no mention of VR. From the looks of it, this looks like it's going to be its own 3D platformer without any VR support. Will that come down the line? Maybe. But this is a very impressive looking 3D platformer. The colors popping off that screen. If you watch the trailer again, pay close attention to the shadow work and just the animation of the grass, like the environment. Wait, let me try that again. The environmental designs in this game are just fantastic. It's everything that I look for in games these days. I love these sort of little cute, whimsical 3D platformers, and this looks right up my alley. Next is one of the more underrated games of the show, and I hope this game gets the attention that it deserves, and that is Little Devil Inside, which is apparently an action-adventure RPG with kind of survival elements. And the bullet point that I read on this one is that you sort of have this person that you work for back in this Victorian homeworlds, and then he tasks you with going out and slaying monsters for research purposes. So this is the one that sort of had this really cute art design, and you saw him going out fighting all these monsters that look like a cross between like Alice in Wonderland meets Where the Wild Things Are. Really cool and creative art design. Amazing to see games like this showcased at this event. And the concept seems really fun. I hope to find out more about this game for the launch of the console. NBA 2K21. Apparently the sweat technology in this is far beyond what was in the previous game. I can't really comment on it too much, but the character model did look amazing, at least. The only sports game we saw at the event. Never would have guessed. This one was probably the... not too many people seemed hyped for this one. I don't think we should ignore it completely. I think we need to know more. And that's Bug Snacks. It's the one with like the little strawberry characters and the walrus and all the food and everything like that. It looks like a game made for kids. It's from the creators of Octodad, which I have not played. It is apparently coming to PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4, which is why the graphics did not look amazing. As a showcase for the PlayStation 5, I don't think this was the right choice to have at this event, because visually it didn't scream next gen to me whatsoever. But it looks like it could be a cute little adventure. Kind of gave me callbacks to maybe Viva Pinata in a way. Okay, next was one that was heavily rumored, and we kind of saw this coming, but here it's nice to see it officially confirmed, and that's the Blue Point remaster of Demon Souls. And oh boy, I was a huge fan of Demon Souls. You can actually watch my video from back in the day when I initially reviewed the game. I was a huge fan of Demon Souls. I played it day one when it came out here in the US, loved it. Loved Dark Souls. After that, I started to sort of wane off of the Soulsborne games. Never played 3, didn't play too much of Bloodborne, but this, I'm ready. You know, I'm ready to dive back into Demon Souls. I loved what they did with Shadow of the Colossus so much, with building a familiar yet totally new worlds, right? Like, we know the world of Shadow of the Colossus, but what Blue Point did was just unbelievable for Shadow of the Colossus. So the fact that they're doing the same with Demon Souls, I'm ready. I'm ready to get immersed in what they do with their remasters. And the thought of playing Demon Souls again, online, fresh, in a brand new world with players from the start all over again, sign me up. I'm definitely ready for this. This is a day one purchase without a doubt for me. Even though I've been out of this series for quite a while, I am on board for this. Just imagine for a moment if that launches with the system. I don't remember what the date was for this, if it was 2021 or 2020. Boy, would that make an amazing day one. Next, oddly enough, is the game that they spent the most time on, actually more time on this than their own console design unveiling, and that's Deathloop, which is from the developers of Dishonored, and boy did it come across as a Dishonored game. I thought it looked neat. I liked the style, I liked the colors, I liked the fun playfulness of the game. Will I play this? Probably not. Not unless it's like right within the launch window of the console. This is the only true first-person shooter that they showed at the event. Very surprising. Alright, next is Resident Evil 8, and boy, what a roller coaster this was, because there were rumors of Resident Evil 8 as well as Silent Hill being unveiled at this event, and boy did this game evoke Silent Hill at times for a lot of us that were watching it live with me. And I caught the little glimpse of the umbrella towards the end of the trailer where they show it for like just a split tiny second. I caught that and I'm like, it's Resident Evil 8. If you blinked, you would have missed it. But they had that little piece in there for you if you were paying attention. I think this looks great. I like that it seems sort of like a Victorian werewolf, almost like Castlevania take on Resident Evil. I like where they're going with it. I like that it's still in first person. One of the most immersive moments I've ever had with video games was playing Resident Evil 7 in VR. So if I can play Resident Evil 8 in VR, rest my heart right now, because boy was that one of the scariest things I have ever done in my life, was playing 7 in VR. If you can play 8 in VR, oh my word. this is going to be a game to look forward to. I like the environments that they've shown. I got like Castlevania vibes going on from the castle they showed in the background. Now, granted, I am not a Resident Evil buff. I don't know the lore of how this connects to previous Resident Evils, you know, some of the references they make. I'm not the guy for that kind of stuff, but I am the guy to get excited for what appears to be like it's going to be an amazing horror game coming in the future for next gen. Alright, second to last here is Pragmata. Not really much to say about this except for the fact that it's a new game coming from Capcom that invokes a lot of people feeling like it's sort of Death Stranding meets Vanquish meets sort of like a Platinum Games kind of looking experience here. This is the one with the guy in the spacesuit with the little girl, and she's got like some psychic powers. We didn't really get to see too much from the trailer, but once again, a new IP, some somewhat unique looking premise. We don't know too much about it though. It's coming in 2022. I believe this game here is one of the latest release dates. I think this may be the only game with a 2022 release date from this event, now that I think about it. Alrighty, and last but certainly not least is Horizon Forbidden West. Also rumored and sort of leaked before this event, so it was predictable, but not too surprising. Now, I will be fully... I'll disclose this right now. I did not beat Horizon Zero Dawn. I appreciated it for what it was, but I struggled to finish it. Not that it was a bad game or anything, but at the time, I just was not in the mindset to play through a new AAA open-world action game. As amazing as it looks, it was very immersive. It just wasn't the right time for me. However, after seeing this trailer, I will tell you, when the PlayStation 5 comes out and I'm able to play Horizon Zero Dawn on my PlayStation 4, I'm going to play that game, because this trailer has convinced me that next gen is real. It is something to look forward to. The visuals in this trailer are one of the best worlds and details in a world that I have seen just based on this trailer alone. When you see her swimming in the water and you look at the lighting effects and you see the way the seaweed is moving and the way she's reacting to the monster above her, and you see the game world that looks like it's ripped straight out of James Cameron's Avatar with these vast, huge, humongous scope and scale in this game's design. Seeing the different environments going from sand to snow to lush jungles, and beyond. And we haven't even seen the facial technology in this game quite yet. We've just seen the environments. This is going to be a game to celebrate when it comes out. You could just tell this is going to be something special just from this trailer alone. And if you weren't convinced that the next console generation is a leap forward from what we have now, and you watch this trailer, heck, if you even watch this trailer in 4K on your TV or something, if you can, if you're not convinced after this, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm hyped. I'm ready. PlayStation 5 is going to be a day one for me. I just look forward to finding out when the release date is, what the price is, and how hard this thing is going to be to pre-order. I have a feeling it is going to be quite hard to get your hands on. They knocked that out of the park. I'm ready. I'm ready for next gen. Hopefully you guys are as well. Make sure, leave a comment down below. Let me know what games, maybe leave me your top 3. 1 game, 3 games, 5 games. What were your top moments from this event? Do we have any other Kena fans out there? Do we have any other Stray fans out there? Let me know below. What are you thinking? What do you think about the design of this thing? I'd be very curious to know. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed my first impressions of the PlayStation 5 unveiling of the console and the games, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.